Today, I'm happy to be in Cambridge where I'm meeting Tony Conway, who's going to talk to us about China. And we are fortunate to be the guests of Magdalene College in their splendid Cripps Conference Centre.
And Tony, I've known for some years, but in latter years, you've been living and working in China, Tony, about which I'm afraid I know nothing. So I wonder if I could ask you first of all to just tell us what your business is in China.
Well, I first went to China in 1999 with the idea of recruiting students for EFL. I was working for Regent Language Training in those days. And really the only way I felt that we could do it properly was to have a presence in China and to link language programs with further education programs, degree, foundation, and so on. And that's what I did. That's how I started out. And you say you know nothing about China. I've been there 8 years, and after 6 months I thought I knew everything about China, but now I realise how much there is to learn, and still, a lot to learn.
Tony, you mentioned there linking it in with further and higher education. Is that that is a general perception, I think, nowadays. Is it yours that EFL will not stand alone, that it must be linked in with the...
I think there are opportunities for EFL as a standalone provision, and that's well shown, actually, by the vast numbers of Chinese students coming to the UK for summer programmes. Often they come as a kind of a pre-taster to see whether or not, parents send them to see whether or not it's the kind of place that they would like to be maybe later on, to do A-levels or foundation, even IB. So it's an important taster. For adults, it's a little bit problematic in the sense that they've got to fully satisfy the visa requirements. And whilst, in theory, there is absolutely no reason why a Chinese national shouldn't come for a short-term language program, they have to very much prove their intent to return, and that can be quite difficult. The majority of the market is looking for further and higher education, and that is the demand, and that demand is often requires English language before they can actually get onto these programs. So a typical study plan would encompass maybe some language, English in China, followed by an IELTS examination, indicating what the actual level was. Then maybe a language program in the UK, which may or may not be linked to the college or the university that they will eventually attend. But the study plan would be then English, maybe in China, English in the UK, followed by maybe A-levels, or maybe straight into a foundation or a degree program. Many Chinese students do pre-masters, which is again often preluded with by an English language program. Standalone English language, there is a demand and students get visas for it, but it's a question of looking at the visa requirements, which are intent to return. And I think, to be honest with you, sitting in the UK and trying to fish students out of China, you'll be successful maybe once in a while. But if you want the throughput from China, I think you really do need to have connections. Guanxi, as the Chinese would term it.
Was that word again?
Guanxi, which means connections.
Right.
And those connections would be agents who are fully aware, devoted to working with the UK, who would be able to help the student with the visa arrangements.
So while you've got an office in there, is your primary business working with agents, or do you work also face-to-face with students?
In China, it's illegal to sell direct to the market. And I know many UK participants come for British Council fairs, hand out brochures. It's all very exciting. You get thousands of people at these exhibitions. But what happens after that is students will refer to agents.
In order for you to do your job, do you have to speak Mandarin, or can you conduct your business in English?
Well, as a linguist, I'm ashamed to say that my Mandarin is extremely poor. I can survive. What is important is that you're working with people who are Chinese. Not just who speak Chinese, but who are Chinese. Chinese, the use of the Lao Wai, which is a foreigner, the word for foreigner, or the Da Bisa, the big nose, as we're often referred to, is important in making presentations and so on. But when it comes down to actually transacting business, I think Chinese people prefer to work with and trust other Chinese people.
Trust lies at the heart of everything, doesn't it? I mean, you know, going back from to your God My House days or whatever, that what people are voting for and the agents are voting for, they say, well, I know that man Conway and I trust him, and that's why I'm going to send him students. And without that, it doesn't matter what else you brandish, does it?
You're right in the sense that our office in China sets its stall out as being expert on all aspects of British education. We may only want to sell one or two programs, but in fact, when people come to you, often they come without any knowledge of the world of British education. And so what we do, rather like a retail store, if you go into IKEA these days or into Conrad's, you're immediately walking into a comfort zone, which provides a lot more than you need. You've got the comfort of a restaurant, you can sit down and relax. If you can create that in the world of training or in the world of education, where people feel that they can come and they can spend time browsing, looking at what you can offer them, and what you can provide them in terms of general information, then you will sell the one or two programs that you want. But you've got to be prepared to go much further than just say, I've got A-levels. Everybody, or many people have A-levels. What you've got to do is to provoke people into saying, right, those guys are going to provide me with a lot more information, and I feel happy working with them. You know what it's like selling EFL products. You know, we can all say, well, small classes, which are not very much appreciated in China. If you have a small class, people will say, what's wrong with it? Why is it so unsuccessful? And a small school, the things that we hold at the core of our sales in the early days, small schools, small classes, these are not appreciated.
The other thing, Tony, was that you mentioned, consistent with this thing about trust and provision of information and the services that you lay on in your office and so on, the next thing, of course, must be that the students come back giving your business good references or your business contacts good references. So is there some way that you also gather that information for the purposes of distributing it?
I mean, nothing sells like success. And success means personal recommendation. And the link to success goes a long way back. And it goes to pre-departure briefing. It goes to hands-on understanding when students arrive of the issues that they are facing. One child, never having been outside of China before. They're facing a new climate, new food, new language, new friends, 8,000 kilometers away from home. They are naturally going to ghetto with other Chinese. And therefore a school, any good school, is going to make huge efforts, maybe in the way that they work, small study groups involving mixed nationalities, and also very careful tutoring, and very, very supportive welfare services. These are absolutely key to beginning the journey. And once they've begun the journey, there's the support that goes into it in order to ensure success. Part of the work that we do, and in fact it's a very large part, it's not just sales, it's after-sales service.